Well, hi, it's Julie, Cricket Leg Creative. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you just some clean and simple cards using the same technique. No stamping today, just all paper. And here's some of the stuff I'm using. I don't have a ton of embossing folders, but these are some of the ones I have I'm going to use today for some of the cards. And then I've got some square dies and a rectangle die for the gift shapes. I've got some patterned Christmas paper that I got out of a Paper Studio Christmas paper booklet. And the first thing I'm going to do for the first card is just cut out or die cut out my gift shapes out of some white cardstock. And I'm going to do that first before I emboss. If I emboss paper first and then cut it out with dies, then I'm going to smush all that dimension. So just going to get the gift shapes first, and then we'll run each one through an embossing folder. There's 3 shapes, and you could use any type of shapes you wanted. I wanted to kind of have some variation in the size, and so I used 2 different size squares and a rectangle. So I'm putting the little rectangle one through an embossing folder where I want it, and I'm just using what my die cut machine says to use for embossing folders. So if you have a die cut machine, just use whatever it tells you to for embossing folder. And so that worked out pretty well. I'm going to use run the other 2 through. Now, if you don't have a die cut machine, you could of course cut the shapes out just by measuring by hand. But the embossing folders are pretty fun to use to add some dimension. And I do love this leaf one. I think it's so pretty. I was going to do some inking with those, but I need a little more practice on inking with the embossing folders. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I think maybe I just need some new ink pads. So what I'm going to do now is use some baker's string, baker's twine, whatever you want to call it, to add what looks like the ribbon onto the presents with just some Scotch tape. I didn't want to fuss with glue for that part. Been trying to get to the voiceover for this video. My dog is trying to get in my face. For a while. I shot this video last week, and then I just have not been able to get to it because I either wake up with not enough sleep, so I have a headache, or I wake up feeling a little sick. I think my body's trying to get a cold, and it's fighting it off pretty well, but sometimes in the mornings I'm not feeling so great. And then last week I tried playing around with alcohol inks for the first time and was not in a well-ventilated enough area and ended up spending like 3 hours in bed recovering from feeling all gross and lightheaded and nauseous. So sitting in front of the fireplace today with the gas logs on and with my dog and my cup of yummy herbal coffee drink that I like from Ticino, and just, you know, he'll go ahead and knock this sucker out because I've been meaning to get this done for a while. Okay, so just finishing up with the last, sorry that's off screen there, with the last gift and trying to put some twine on it. And this first card excuse me, this first card I wanted to do more of a simpler, I was going to do white on white, but it ended up being just too much white. So I found some pretty paper from that Paper Studio collection booklet, and I'm putting some dimensional tape onto the backs of these gifts to lift them up off the back a little bit. And I can do that because it's cardstock and it holds up pretty well. Some of the other cards the paper is thinner, so I just tape them directly down. And then just kind of position them where you think they might go before sticking them down. I kind of knew sort of where I wanted those to go. I wanted them to be slightly off from each other. I didn't want them to be all lined up. And I'll put the last one on. I did like this card, but one of my favorites, I think, is the one I'm going to show you next. But the way it came together. But you could do all kinds of different combinations of papers, and whether or not you use the foam tape on the back, and whether or not you use twine or die cuts for ribbons. So for this one, because I did each of the gifts slightly differently for their ribbon, I decided to just do one bow, and I glued that to the center gift and then held it down with an acrylic block just to kind of give it a second to set, and then set it aside after that to let the glue dry. That's been the easiest way for me to put on twine like that. So here's the one I really love. So I I took some craft paper and did the same thing with the die cuts and embossing folders, and put them on top of some really pretty evergreen boughs and pine cone paper, which is atop of some more pattern paper. That's all from that paper studio. I really love this one. That brown and white baker's twine I think is so pretty. And some other ones that I did that I didn't show you on camera are just some different combinations of papers, and I have a die cut I use there for the bows, which is pretty quick instead of trying to tie the baker's twine. They're not as dimensional because they're not up off the paper like this one is, but I think they're still really pretty. And if you're going for clean and simple and fast, if you're trying to mass produce some, and that's a really fun way to go. Getting a book of papers that are already kind of coordinating, they all kind of have the same colors, is a great way to make some cards with interest, because you've got all the papers pretty much match each other. And there's one with some pattern paper for the bows that turned out pretty fun. And I also used some embellishments like some metallic tape and some glitter tape to finish those off. So there's the cards. They're really fast, clean and simple cards. Make sure to subscribe so you can see the rest of my videos, and I hope y'all have a very Merry Christmas. Y'all take care.